Mirror glazes are eye-catching, versatile, and easy to make. The standard recipe requires gelatin, which is an animal-based product. Thankfully, there's also a plant-based alternative to gelatin that works just as great, and that's Agar. Today I will create this galaxy mirror glaze using Agar. Let's jump to the ingredients. For this recipe, I use 170 grams of white granulated sugar, 200 grams of white chocolate, I recommend a couverture, 11 grams of Agar. I purchased my Agar over Amazon and it came in a pretty large package and it was not expensive. 145 milliliters of water, and then finally 115 grams of sweet condensed milk. There's 3 aspects you need to be aware of to use Agar successfully. The first one is that it needs to dissolve in some liquid. The second is that it needs to cook for a minute or 2 to get activated. And the third is that it sets at room temperature. So to take care of the first criteria, I add a couple tablespoons of water to the Agar and let it sit for a few minutes while I prepare the other ingredients. To my sugar, I'm going to add the sweet condensed milk and the remaining water. Then I'm going to bring this to a low simmer for a few minutes while continuously stirring. The goal is for the sugar to completely dissolve. Rub some of the mixture between your fingers to ensure that the sugar has fully dissolved before continuing to the next step. The consistency of my mixture now looks and feels right, so I'm ready to proceed to the next step, which is to add the Agar to this. As I mentioned before, in order for Agar to get activated, it needs to cook. So I'm going to raise the temperature on my stove, place the pot on my stove, and stir this every once in a while because Agar likes to sink to the bottom of the pot, and just let it sit there until it comes to a boil. As soon as it comes to a boil, I'm pretty much going to remove it from the stove, but continue stirring. And that's what it looks like. You can see that the mixture is turned a little bit more glossy. It's still hot, so now I'm going to pour the white chocolate into this, and I'm going to let it sit for about 30 seconds until the white chocolate has been melted. That looks good. I'm going to stir to make sure that all of the white chocolate has dissolved or melted. And then I'm going to go into this with a blender to ensure that there's no chunks of white chocolate and no chunks of Agar left. Doing this produces a lot of bubbles, and you don't want any kind of air bubbles when you're creating a mirror glaze. So to prevent the air bubbles from happening or to remove them, I need to sift this. Instead of sifting this in one batch, I'm going to sift this into 4 different portions, and I'm going to color those then right away with some gel-based food coloring. As I mentioned before, Agar sets at room temperature, so all of this needs to happen pretty quickly or your mirror glaze is going to be too thick in consistency to pour. You can use any brand for gel-based food color. I'm using 2 by Rainbow Dust. I'm using navy and purple by Rainbow Dust, pink by Woolton, and white by Americolor. So the mirror glaze preparation itself is very easy and straightforward. However, your project will not be successful if you pour it over a cake that isn't perfectly smooth. I've prepared a cake and laid it in a cream or mousse-like consistency and frozen it. If it's frozen, it's easier to smooth. Plus, I wouldn't recommend a buttercream or a ganache that's been sitting at room temperature because I'm about to pour warm mirror glaze over this. If I were to wait for the mirror glaze to cool, then it would have already set because it's using Agar. So, best thing, smooth surface, frozen, and then you're ready to have some fun. I'm elevating my cake on a glass, and I'm ready to start pouring my glaze on top of the cake. Keep in mind that I'm speeding up this video, so the glaze is actually not dripping as fast as it looks. So if you're repeating this recipe and you're finding that the glaze is not moving as quickly, it's because, well, mine isn't either. I'm just speeding up the video. Finally, I brush on with an offset spatula to make the colors a little bit more wishy-washy, galaxy-like. I wait a couple of minutes until the glaze is no longer dripping, and then I just smooth the bottom of the cake to remove all of the excess. Finally, a galaxy is not complete with some stars. To create the stars, I placed my toothbrush, and this is not the toothbrush I use every night, I promise. I put it in some gel-based white food coloring and sprinkle on the stars onto my galaxy. And then I'm done. I hope you guys enjoyed this recipe. Let me know by giving this video a thumbs up and subscribe for more healthy, delicious, and fun recipes from me. Thank you for watching and see you next time.